I always imagined fatherhood would be the greatest moment of my life. The day my son was born should have been filled with nothing but joy. It should have been a moment where my heart overflowed with love, where I looked into his tiny face and saw a reflection of myself. But when the nurse placed him in my arms, something inside me shattered. My hands trembled as I cradled the small, fragile bundle of life. His face scrunched up in a tiny yawn, his tiny fingers curling, his little chest rising and falling with soft, steady breaths. But nothing about him looked like me. Dark hair, a soft but unfamiliar nose, eyes that didn't resemble mine or anyone in my family. His lips, the curve of his jaw, all foreign. I tried to push the thought away. Babies change, I told myself. He'll grow into my features. He's just a newborn. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. Rachel lay on the hospital bed, her face flushed with exhaustion, beads of sweat on her forehead. But when I looked closer, I noticed something hidden behind her tired eyes, something she tried to mask. Fear. Not fear from labor, not the exhaustion of childbirth. No, she was afraid of what I was thinking. It was in the way her fingers tightened against the sheet, the way her breathing hitched when she saw my hesitation. She knew, and that realization made my stomach turn to stone. I forced myself to smile, though every instinct screamed at me to demand answers. Not here, not now. He's here, Rachel, I whispered, swallowing the bile rising in my throat. Our prayers have been answered. She nodded quickly, almost too quickly, forcing a weak smile. But her eyes flickered with something else. Relief. And in that moment, I understood she had been waiting for my reaction, waiting to see if I would question the truth. I held my son closer, breathing in the scent of new life, but it didn't settle the unease burning through me. I had never felt more betrayed, and the worst part? I had no proof. Not yet. I wanted to believe I was being paranoid. I told myself I was just tired, overwhelmed by the weight of becoming a father. But the doubt never left. At first, I tried to ignore it. I pushed away the nagging thoughts and convinced myself that time would prove me wrong. It didn't. As the weeks passed, I couldn't ignore the truth. Jason's features only became more distinct and more unfamiliar. The dark hair remained. His eyes, his nose, his mannerisms, none of them mirrored me. None of them mirrored my family. And then came the comments. Oh, he must take after Rachel's side. He looks so much like his mother. Not a single person said he looked like me. And Rachel? She grew more and more defensive. She refused to let me take Jason to any doctor's appointments. She insisted on being the only one present for checkups. You're working so hard, Daniel. Let me handle this. At first, I let it go. But then I started noticing the avoidance. Whenever I studied Jason's face for too long, she would change the subject. Whenever I brought up a paternity test as a joke, she would laugh too hard, too forced. She was hiding something, and I was going to find out exactly what it was. The night I discovered the truth, it was by accident. Rachel had fallen asleep early. Jason was finally quiet in his crib. I was about to head to bed when I saw her phone lit up on the nightstand, unlocked. Rachel was always careful with her phone. Too careful. I knew it was wrong. I had never been the type to invade her privacy, but something in my gut told me to look. So I did. And that's when I saw the message that destroyed me. A photo. A man. Mid-40s. Dark hair. Strong jaw. Jason's face staring back at me, only older. I felt like the air had been sucked from my lungs. My fingers trembled as I scrolled further. The message thread led to a folder of documents. Northwest Cryogenics. Posthumous use authorization. A name was listed at the top of the form. A name I knew too well. Ethan Carter. Rachel's ex. Jason wasn't my son. He was Ethan's. Rachel had taken his frozen sperm, gotten herself pregnant, and never told me the truth. I dropped the phone as if it had burned me, my chest heaving. Everything. The doubts, the secrecy, the way she had reacted in the hospital. It all made sense now. Rachel had orchestrated this entire thing. She had used me, and she thought she could get away with it. For a moment, I just stood there, breathing heavily, drowning in the weight of my wife's betrayal. But then, something inside me shifted. I wouldn't lose control. No, I was going to be patient, strategic. I had spent years believing I was a father, living a lie Rachel had carefully crafted. Now it was her turn to suffer. I sat in the dark, my fingers still gripping Rachel's phone as if it might suddenly erase everything I had just read. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to find some logical explanation, some excuse, anything to make this nightmare disappear. But the truth was staring me in the face. Rachel had betrayed me in the worst way possible. She had taken another man's sperm, her dead, ex-husband's sperm, and conceived a child while making me believe he was mine. She had built an entire life on a lie, and I'd been too blind, too trusting, too in love to see it. But not anymore. I forced myself to breathe, inhaling deeply, controlling the rage building inside me. If I lost control, I'd lose everything. I couldn't afford to storm into the bedroom and confront her in a fit of fury. That wasn't enough. No, I needed something better, something permanent. I needed her to understand the depth of what she had done. I needed her to suffer like I had suffered. So I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and began a plan. Revenge without proof was just anger. I needed documentation. I needed a case so airtight that when I brought the hammer down on Rachel, there would be no escape. I scoured the house for every piece of financial evidence I could find. Medical bills, insurance claims, hospital receipts, everything. Then, I dug deeper. I pulled our financial records. I found payments made to Northwest Cryogenics dating back almost 2 years. I searched through Rachel's emails. Appointments with a fertility clinic popped up, lining up perfectly with the date she told me she was pregnant. I dug into phone records. Dozens of calls between her and the clinic. She had planned this for years. I gritted my teeth, my hands tightening into fists. She had gone behind my back while we were still trying to conceive. She had pretended to be heartbroken every time we failed to get pregnant, all while she already had a backup plan. She had made a fool out of me, and that I couldn't forgive. Rachel's world revolved around her image. She loved being the doting wife, the perfect new mother, the woman who finally had it all. She flaunted our happy little family all over social media. So I would take that from her. The next morning, I called my lawyer, an old friend named Alex Carter, a man who had never lost a case. When I told him everything, he let out a low whistle. Jesus, Daniel, this is worse than I thought. We can file for paternity fraud, emotional distress, and financial deception. How long will it take? I asked, my voice cold. Give me 24 hours. We'll have the lawsuit ready by morning. Good, I muttered. And make sure she gets served in public. Alex chuckled darkly. Now that I can do. I hung up, feeling the first wave of satisfaction wash over me. But I wasn't done. I still needed Rachel to feel the weight of her betrayal. Rachel thought she could control the story. She thought she could play the perfect wife, the loving mother, and that no one would ever find out her secret. I was about to ruin that illusion. I made several anonymous tips to social media pages, relationship gossip forums, parenting groups, and even a few wife betrayal blogs. Man discovers wife used deceased ex-husband's sperm behind his back. Whole marriage built on a lie. Then, I took it one step further. Rachel had a best friend, Cynthia, who was an absolute gossip queen. She couldn't keep a secret to save her life, and I knew exactly how to use that. I sent her an anonymous message. Did you hear about Rachel's little secret? She tricked her husband into raising another man's baby. You might want to ask her yourself. Within hours, the rumor spread like wildfire. Rachel's phone started blowing up with messages from her friends, her co-workers, even distant relatives. By evening, she knew something was wrong. She stormed into the house, slamming the door behind her, her face red with panic. Daniel, what the hell is going on? Why is everyone asking me these crazy questions? I leaned back in my chair, my expression blank. Oh, did something get out? She gaped at me, her breathing erratic. You did this. I did what needed to be done. her hands clenched into fists. "You had no right to humiliate me like this." I stood slowly, stepping toward her, my voice low and sharp as a blade. "And you had no right to deceive me, Rachel. You had no right to take away my choice. You had no right to make me believe I was a father when I wasn't." Tears filled her eyes, but I felt nothing. Nothing but satisfaction. "You ruined my life," she sobbed. I smirked. "Now you know how it feels." The next morning, Rachel received the official lawsuit papers, served to her in front of her office, where all her co-workers watched in horror. She tried to call me. I didn't answer. She tried to show up at the house. I had already changed the locks. Her parents tried to get involved, but I slammed the door in their faces. She was finally alone. For weeks, the lawsuit dragged on. I had all the evidence. She had nothing. The court ruled in my favor. I was legally declared not Jason's father. Rachel was forced to pay me back for every dollar spent on medical expenses. She was publicly humiliated, her social life completely destroyed. And when it was all over, she sent me one last message. "Daniel, please, I lost everything. You proved your point. Just let's talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, with zero hesitation, I blocked her number. I was done. For the first time in years, I felt free. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more fake smiles and empty promises. I had spent years fighting for a marriage that was never real. And now I had my life back. Rachel thought she had won. She thought she could manipulate me, control me, trap me in her life forever. She was wrong. Because in the end, I was the one who walked away. I was the one who won. And Rachel? She was nothing but a mistake. The house felt different without her. Quieter, empty, hollow. For years I had come home expecting warmth, companionship, the feeling of family. But now all I had was silence. And for the first time in a long time, I was okay with that. I walked through the house, my fingers grazing over the furniture, the pictures still hanging on the walls, photos of a life that never really existed. There was one in particular that caught my eye, a framed picture on the mantel. It was from last year's Christmas. Rachel was standing beside me, one arm wrapped around my waist, the other holding Jason, her smile bright, proud. I stared at my own face in the picture. There was no pride in my eyes, just exhaustion, blindness. I hadn't seen it back then, but now it was so painfully obvious. She had always known what she did. She had been hiding this secret from the beginning, and that entire time, I had been playing the role of the oblivious fool. I grabbed the frame, gripping it so tightly my knuckles turned white, and then, without hesitation, I threw it against the wall. Glass shattered across the hardwood floor, shards scattering in every direction. The frame broke apart, the picture torn, fragmented, just like my marriage. But that wasn't enough. I needed her out of my life completely. So I went through the house. I removed every trace of her. The clothes she left behind? Gone. The little knickknacks she always insisted on keeping? In the trash. The wedding ring I had once slipped on her finger, believing in a forever that never existed. I flushed it down the sink. By the time I was finished, the house was no longer ours. It was mine, and with each thing I threw away, with every piece of her I erased from my home, I felt lighter. Rachel's calls became more desperate. She left voicemails, each one more pathetic than the last. "Daniel, please. I know I messed up, but can we just talk? Just once. I lost everything, Daniel. I can't even go to the grocery store without people staring at me. My parents are barely speaking to me. I have no friends left. You don't understand what you've done." I listened to every single one, and then I deleted them without replying. She didn't deserve closure, not after what she had done. And yet, despite everything, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Not completely. Rachel had lost her social standing. She had lost her friends. She had lost me. But she still had Jason, and I knew her well enough to understand one thing. She wasn't the type to let go easily. If she couldn't have her perfect family, if she couldn't control me, she would do the next best thing. She would find a way to pull me back in. I had won the legal battle. I was no longer Jason's father in the eyes of the court. But that wouldn't stop her from trying to manipulate me. I needed to be ready, because if Rachel Carter thought she could find a way back into my life, she was about to learn just how wrong she was. 2 weeks passed. For the first time in years, I felt free. I went back to work, threw myself into projects, surrounded myself with people who actually valued me. People who didn't lie, who didn't betray, who didn't see me as a pawn in their twisted little game. But then, one evening, as I walked through my front door, I found an envelope waiting for me. No return address, no markings, just my name written in Rachel's familiar handwriting. I felt a slow, simmering rage build in my chest as I opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. A birth certificate. Jason's birth certificate. And on the father's name line, my name was crossed out. Beneath it, Rachel had written just 2 words. I hope you're happy. I clenched my jaw, crushing the paper in my fist. Was I happy? I had gotten what I wanted. Rachel was out of my life. Jason was no longer my responsibility. I had won. So why did I feel like something was still unfinished? Because Rachel had played her game so well. She had left a scar that I couldn't erase overnight. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about moving forward. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready. Moving on wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. The legal battle was over. The revenge was done. But the scars? They lingered. Some nights, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, remembering every moment Rachel had lied to me, every I love you that meant nothing. Every night she had gone to bed beside me, knowing she had betrayed me, and never once confessing. The memory still burned. But then one morning, I woke up and realized something. I didn't miss her. Not Rachel, not the life we had built, not the dream she had stolen. I missed the idea of what we could have been. But that version of us had never existed. It had only been in my head. And once I understood that, the pain started to fade. I started going out more, seeing friends I had neglected over the years. I picked up old hobbies, things I had given up for Rachel's sake. I started living again. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself. For weeks, my life began to feel normal again. I was finally free of Rachel's lies, the weight of betrayal slowly lifting from my shoulders. But peace never lasts when you've been wronged this deeply. One evening, after a long day at work, I pulled into my driveway, eager for nothing but a hot shower in silence. But as I stepped out of my car, I froze. Rachel was sitting on my porch. She looked different, hollowed out, thinner, as if the stress of everything had taken its toll. Her hair was unkempt, dark circles under her eyes. She wasn't the confident, manipulative woman I once knew. She looked desperate. I exhaled slowly, keeping my face cold. "What the hell are you doing here?" She stood, her movements hesitant, like she already knew she had no right to be here. I just needed to talk to you. One last time." I clenched my jaw, arms crossed. "I don't owe you anything, Rachel. Whatever you have to say, it's too late." Tears welled in her eyes, and for the first time, they weren't calculated. They weren't an act. "I know," she whispered. "But please, Daniel, just listen." I should have slammed the door in her face. I should have walked past her without a second glance. But instead, I let her speak, because deep down, I wanted to hear what excuse she would come up with this time. Rachel sat on my porch steps, her hands trembling as she rubbed them together. "I lost everything, Daniel," she said quietly. "My friends, my job. Even my parents barely talk to me now. I just want to know if you ever loved me at all. If any of it was real." I stared at her, my expression unreadable. "I did love you, Rachel. I loved you enough to give you my entire life. But you never loved me. You loved what I could give you. You loved control." Her face twisted in pain. "That's not true." Then why did you lie? I shot back, my voice sharp. Why did you steal my right to decide whether I wanted to raise another man's child? Why did you take everything from me and expect me to be okay with it? Her lips trembled. She had no answer, and that's when I knew there was nothing left between us. I can't undo what I did, she admitted. But I need you to know that I never stopped loving you. I let out a bitter laugh. No, Rachel, you never loved me. You just hate that I was strong enough to leave you. She sobbed quietly, looking down at her hands. I felt nothing. No sympathy, no sadness. Just a quiet satisfaction that she was finally feeling even a fraction of what I had felt. You should go, I said, stepping past her toward my front door. We have nothing left to say to each other. Daniel, wait! I turned back, my eyes cold. Don't come here again, Rachel. We're done. Forever. And with that, I closed the door in her face. That night, for the first time in months, I slept soundly. Rachel was no longer my burden. Her pain, not my problem. I had spent so long trapped in her deception, tangled in her lies, trying to be the husband she never truly deserved. But now, I was free. The next morning, I deleted her number, blocked her on every platform, threw out every last reminder of her. I walked outside, breathed in the fresh morning air, and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I focused on rebuilding my life. I worked harder, reconnected with old friends, spent my weekends doing things I actually enjoyed, things I had given up for Rachel. And slowly, I stopped thinking about her, stopped thinking about the betrayal, the pain, the wasted years. One evening, I met someone new. She was nothing like Rachel, kind, genuine, real. And when she smiled at me, it wasn't because she wanted something. It was because she actually liked me for who I was. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't angry. I was finally moving on. Rachel tried to reach out one last time. An email, a simple message. I hope you're happy now. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She had finally realized what I had known all along. I didn't need her anymore. A year later, I heard from a mutual acquaintance that Rachel had moved away, vanished. Rumor was she couldn't stand living in the same city after everything that happened. Too much shame. I never looked her up, never searched for her on social media. She was a ghost to me, and that was exactly how I wanted it. I had wasted years of my life on someone who never deserved me. But that chapter? It was over now. My life was my own, and for the first time, I was excited about the future. People think revenge is about hurting the one who hurt you. But the best revenge? It's moving on. It's living better, happier, stronger. And that's exactly what I did. One evening, I stood on my balcony, looking out at the city lights. I thought about the past, the pain, the betrayal. And then I let it all go. Rachel was just a bad memory now. I didn't hate her anymore. I didn't feel anything at all. And that was true freedom. I had started over. A new life. New people. New dreams. Rachel was nothing but a scar I no longer felt. I had walked through the fire and I had come out stronger. This was my story, and it had finally reached its perfect ending.